Hi there, and welcome back into the Ohio and Appalachian History Geographer. We're back here again at the Geography Corner, and today we're going to talk about something kind of near and dear to me, maps. I've always been fascinated with maps ever since a young age, and that's another reason why I kind of got into geography is that I just loved looking at maps and studying maps because really maps are a snapshot into the past. They kind of show and depict whatever they are showing or about. They are a glimpse into the past at that exact moment when they were made. So, for example, ones that I've always liked to look at is like pre and post Civil War maps because of the immense change that happened prior to the war and after the war of the way the United States looked. It's a fantastic representation of kind of in a broad panoramic specter of what changes really took place at that moment of time. So maps can really teach us everything. We could almost want to know just about whether it was a map of, say, done in the 1700s, 1600s, or a map that you would buy at maybe a grocery store today, a road map or something. They all teach us something and are all still glimpses into that moment that they were made. So here today I want to show you a couple maps. This one you may have seen before. I have used it on the site. This was from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. This is a map that shows the glacial activity that occurred here in Ohio. From pre-Illinoian, which is older than 300,000 years, all the way up to the most recent ice age, which was about 13,000 years ago, somewhere around there, when it ended. So if you remember from my geology page my geology post that I did, you may remember me referring to some of this, and I will post this on the site. Actually, in the comments section right below this video, you will be able to see this map and the map that I'll be showing next. So hang on until after the video, and then scroll down and check those out and give them a glimpse for yourself. But as I said, this map shows a great deal of information regarding the glacial history of Ohio, and you can see here where glaciation did not occur in this more kind of light tan area, you could call it, very, very light, or an off-white almost, you could say. This area was the untouched area of the glaciation, so you can see where the glacial activity stopped and where the remnants were flowing down into, and this is called colluvium. So this is kind of the runoff and the sediment that ran away from the glacier as it melted. So this map really does, I think, a great job in kind of explaining the past, of at least in a geological sense. But into a more human geography sense and a more historical geography sense, let's take a look at the next map. This is a map I just recently found, actually a little bit before I did this video, and kind of inspired me to do this video because I found this map so enthralling. This is an 1887 railroad map of the state of Ohio. So all of these lines you see essentially are railroad tracks that go just all over the state. So this to me is kind of a great glimpse, especially at such a pivotal time, 1887, in the history. So as we've seen on this site, this was a very active time, really the heyday of mining, when it was really just booming and railroad companies were coming in, investing. This really was the golden age of mining, or about to be. This map actually came from an Ohio Railroad Guide of 1887 from, I believe it was railsandtrains.com, as where I was able to find this. But quite often, states or even a railroad company would put out a map every year, or a guide book that would talk about where they go, maybe things that have expanded or changed from year to year. So that way people, especially traveling, would know what has changed and where and what railroad company they could use to go to different places that they needed to go to. So these were really key back in this time, and really up through about the 1950s, really. And then as the railroad industry declined because of the automobile coming along and being very popular, especially really from the 1930s to the 50s it started, and then really the post-war economy really just blossomed the automobile and kind of downgraded the rail system. So therefore, this map looks much different now today than it did in 1887, of course, as railroads are really few and far between, or only one line where there could have been 3 or 4 at one time. But I love this map, as you can obviously and clearly point out the kind of coming together in Columbus, Cincinnati, let's see, up especially in Toledo. I find that fascinating because at this moment in time, Toledo was a very booming and bustling city, and they even had stakes down in this area. They had a stake in the coal mining in southeastern Ohio, and also, as we know, the Toledo and Ohio Central Railroad ran right through Zanesville and New Lexington, and especially through Perry County, Athens County, and on up into Columbus, and then on up into Toledo, and they would haul the coal from down here all the way, and it would be spread, as I mentioned before, Columbus, and then over toward Dayton, or just up into Toledo, and then it would be sent to points west, or it would be sent up this way, up into Cleveland, let's say, and then points east. So this kind of gives you a good idea of how much activity was going on. And to even show it further, let me jump over here to a zoomed in version of this map on the actual web page. I found this, and I found this fascinating because it really kind of shows just how many lines were flowing from Athens up through Nelsonville and into Logan, and just how much activity was going on. And the one last thing I do want to point out, which kind of shows the old phrase of what's in a name, the town of Junction City, right up here, which still exists in Perry County. This actually was called such because of so many railroads and lines that crossed in this one place. As we can see, they were coming in from the west, from the east, and then all the way down from the south and north as well. And this was the Toledo in Ohio that ran right through here. So this was their rail line, ironically. So this was, this is a great map, and just shows, as I said, this is a snapshot of 1887 right here. In some of the cities, you could spend forever really looking at this map and seeing, how town names change. For example, down Parkersburg, West Virginia, it was spelled with an H, which changed over time. Just the spelling, it just naturally dropped the H off, and now it just ends in G. So things like that. There's all kinds of interesting things that a map, whenever it was made, can show you. So I thought this would be kind of a little interesting tidbit if you did not know any of this. And as I said, I found these maps, and I thought some of you would find them interesting. So they will be right below the posting here. It will be on the comments section. You can go down there and check them out. So I hope you found this informative, and I'll see you up around the bend.